The Galapagos Islands, a cultural immersion presented by Meredith Williams, PhD student at St. Mary of the Woods College. The Galapagos Islands, or islands of turtles, are obviously known for their giant tortoises. While I was on the island of San Cristobal, I noticed a culture of conservation that's really woven throughout society and the environment. And conservation is the prevention of the wasteful use or depletion of a resource. So, of course, one of the most exciting things about visiting the Galapagos Islands is that they're really known internationally for their flora and fauna. So there really is a culture of science and conservation because of the unique biodiversity. There was a lot of discussion about the high levels of endemism, which really means that there is a high number of unique and indigenous species that are found nowhere else in the world. And so obviously there are things like the blue-footed booby, the brown Galapagos brown pelican, the sea lions, and some unique plant species like the candelabra cactus. They're all very unique to the area, but they also face unprecedented threats. On one of our land-focused days on the island, we visited a turtle reserve up in the highlands and then lunched at Hacienda Tranquila. Aside from the incredible views, we enjoyed a meal with everything from coffee to chicken, which was grown right there on the farm using sustainable and humane farming methods. The farm also has a private reserve where they protect endemic plant species, and they've been successful in moving at least 2 species off of the endangered list. Here you see Giovanni from Hacienda Tranquila, and they also help to bridge the divide between the environment and humanity through socio-environmental improvements on the island. So they do this by educating and equipping residents and visitors on conservation practices that can preserve the natural resources of the island. Our favorite coffee shop on the island, serving delicious coffee that we went to almost every day, was actually connected to Hacienda Tranquila. They do the coffee tastings up on the farm when special groups come in. And what's interesting is they use the coffee from the island, they grow the coffee, and a lot of the woodwork in the coffee shop, which is artisan woodwork, is made from coffee trees that no longer produce coffee beans. So the wood, rather than just being wasted, is repurposed into furniture and art that's sold in the shop. Of course, we have to talk about food if we're talking about culture. And the food that I experienced while on the island was probably some of the freshest that I've ever experienced in my life. So you'll notice from right to left here that there's bottled water. The water is not safe to drink unless it's bottled on the island. But the food, it's amazing. Everything on this plate that you see over on the right is fresh. Notice that the orange juice is very thick, almost like a smoothie, and that's because it's so fresh. There's also blackberry ice cream over towards the left, and it's interesting because the blackberries on the island are actually becoming invasive, but they use the blackberries for delicious ice cream. Since resources are limited on the island, providing all that delicious food can be dependent on leveraging resources that are there on the island. And so there's a movement to train children and the community on how to care for plants and protect their indigenous and endemic species. And here we see a garden in a school on their property where the students are taught in the curriculum more about the science of growing the plants and then charged to care for the plants. Here we see a teacher providing a snack with watermelon in the classroom. While it wasn't grown there on the property, they do try to provide healthy snacks and sometimes do provide snacks from the garden. Notice that there's no goldfish crackers like in the United States. It's pretty healthy. The art was amazing. I loved looking at the local art. This is a painting that is on the wall of the school grounds. Piquero stands for booby, and you can see that this is the blue-footed booby, which is a unique bird found only in the Galapagos Islands. You can see these little boys drawing another version of it. And here we see Darwin and his studies, and we see the red of the frigate bird, which is also unique to the islands. But again, we see the theme of conservation woven in. I think that an interesting lens to use when examining cultures are brands. Coming from a marketing background, I was very aware of the various brands that I saw on the island, many of them familiar, many of them not familiar. I also noticed a special blend between some of the brands, between the Spanish label and an American brand. Like, for instance, we see Palmer's Cocoa Butter, and Coca-Cola was available in both a Spanish label and an English label. But it was really interesting to see how brands are influencing the culture. Brands are being used in the scientific research to understand how consumerism is affecting the ecosystems in the islands. So, one of the studies that's been done recently picked up trash washing up onto the islands, and they looked at the brands to find the biggest offenders. And they found that Peru, Ecuador, and China are three of the biggest offending countries, and that Cru, Coca-Cola, and Tingy Holding Corporation were three of the top offending brand manufacturers. Of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the unique relationship between religion, tradition, and science on the island. I found it super interesting that we were just a mile or two from where Darwin did his research, and yet religion was very obviously a big part of the culture on the island. You see on the left-hand side, you see a nativity scene in a classroom during Little Christmas, just a week or two after the Christmas holiday. And you see a shrine that also uses the penguin, the only North American penguin, which is found in the Galapagos Islands. So there's also conservation woven into some of it. And then, of course, it's a Catholic tradition for the most part on the island. But there's a really unique coexistence between science and religion, which I found very, very interesting. Of course, one of the most charming things about the island are the people. We were welcomed with open arms and our open hearts during our stay, and this picture encapsulates the sweetness of spirit that we encountered while we were there. If I were to encapsulate the culture of the island for the people, I would say that they are resilient and grateful. Resilient because they've experienced tough times after COVID-19 and a depletion of resources, and their economy has been struggling because of some of the limitations. But they are grateful for the resources that they have and understand the uniqueness and the need to preserve those resources. And so it was certainly a privilege to get to experience that and understand its importance. And this quote, I think, captures it perfectly. The beauty of the Galapagos cannot be explained, only experienced. And I feel privileged to have experienced it for myself and hope to take what I've learned forward and to share it with others. And so that concludes my presentation, and I just want to thank you for listening and for sharing my journey to the Galapagos Islands.